Welcome to yet another exciting edition of Sports Extraordinary Weekend Edition here on Atlantic Television Network. On this edition of the program, I want to tell you that the Madrid Open is set and Alcaraz, the homeboy, is beginning to excite fans again. And coming in from the world of football, Champions League finalists have emerged, Esperance and Ahali of Egypt. We'll take a look at how they emerged, and above all, we'll look at basketball. Well, the Nile Conference is really the talk of the weekend, with upsets at the Nile Conference in Cairo, Egypt. Details of this and many more will be yours when we return from the break. Stay with us. Welcome to yet another exciting edition of Sports Talk. On this edition of Weekend Sports Extraordinary, and on this edition, this weekend is Kingsley Emmanuel. Nice to have you, Kingsley.
Thank you very much for having me, Siri. Very happy to be here this evening.
Well, talking about this weekend in sports, a lot has happened, especially in basketball, in football, and of course, don't forget there are pockets of tournaments here and there aimed at seeing some athletes qualify for the prestigious Paris Olympic Games, and Nigerians are making waves as well in some kind of extraordinary performance in badminton. We saw a gold medal in favor of in Nigeria. Kingsley, in Madrid, Spain, at the weekend, of course, a couple of hours ago, we saw Bolaji being defeated by an Indian, but again, it was a convincing score of 21-17, 21-17, and 21-17. So it was like 3-0, securing the top spot at the podium.
It was really, of course, an impressive, feat for Bolaji. History, of course, for her, because when you talk about badminton in Nigeria, I think she's the huge one, for her. A huge one to the Badminton Federation for being able, of course, huge one, for her. A huge one to the Badminton Federation for being able, of course, to take care of her and also to support her in getting down to this stage of the competition. I think for me, Bolaji will be, the beginning of beginning of a new thing when it has to do with badminton in the country. As she stands now, she's a force now to reckon with, in badminton globally, from Nigeria. And that's to tell you that the Badminton Federation of Nigeria are doing a fantastic job in trying to churn out talents, like Bolaji at this point in time. We hope that other badminton players will also come up as well, to this stage. I think for me, a huge feat for Eniola Bolaji.
Bolaji doing so well, and we just hope that she can continue to make impact in badminton. Badminton doesn't look to be very popular here in Nigeria, but when you have a Nigerian come to the continent, and of course go across the continent as well to make a mark, then definitely should be giving her kind of support. Just before we get at our main discourse for tonight or this weekend on the show, Kingsley, before we look at the Nile Conference, where there's been a remarkable shake-up in terms of pedigree, River Swoopers are preparing for the Sahara Conference in Dakar, Senegal. Any moment from in the next 14 days or so, they should be headed towards Dakar, venue of the Sahara. There is intensity of training in Lagos, Nigeria, ahead of their departure to Dakar, Senegal. How ready is River Swoopers to contend with the U.S. Monastir, APR of Rwanda, and of course AS Douanes, the home side in the Sahara Conference?
For me, I think they're very much ready. When you take a look at the level of preparation and what they've been able to do so far, of course, for themselves. We saw them at the basketball courts down here in Port Harcourt. We're able to speak, of course, to some of the new players, the likes of Wee Perry, John Wilson, Kevin Omayo, and the rest of them. I think from what they said on that very day, the team looked very much ready. Even the coach Ogo Odaldo as well, talk about the preparation of the team, as well as the huge support, from the River State government. It means a whole lot, for them. And I think as we speak now, they are in Lagos, of course, preparing for the Basketball African League. I think it's really been an impressive one when it has to do with the preparation so far. We've not heard of any complaint. The players, they are not complaining. Even the coach, they are not complaining. I think they have all what it takes for them to go down there to put up their best, at the Basketball African League. Though we know it's going to be a very cagey one due to the opponents they were playing in. They were playing against US Monastir. They were playing against AP Arrow of Rwanda, AS Douanes of Senegal as well. These are top teams. There are teams that have that particular 9 conference group. Talking about Ahali with 9 points. That's to tell you that they were very much prepared. Coming into this one. Of course, when you take a look at that group, you have Ahali, you have Ahali Benkasi, you have City Oilers. You expect Bangu FC to be the whipping boys, looking at the fact that this is their first time in the Basketball African League. They've not gotten much experience, when it has to do with this competition. You expect them to be the whipping boys. But from what it is, they are challenging the big teams, as it stands. That's to tell you that, they were very much prepared within themselves, coming into this particular one. No one saw this coming, for the Bangu side. And I tell you, they've really done well so far in the competition.
Well, talking about the Bangui side, Sporting Club of Bangui, Central African Republic, they surprised a lot of people, like Kingsley did mention there. Second place right now on the table. But this is the weekend that will decide who gets into the playoff. Something interesting about the City Oilers of Uganda game and the Bangui. Because City Oilers lost that fixture, Ahali of Egypt had the chance now to qualify for the playoff, whether they come first or second, depending on what happens in their last fixture. Because Ali of Egypt beat their Ahali side from Benghazi, Libya, by 87 points to 76, guaranteeing them at least a second spot with one more game to spare at the Nile Conference. Of
course, you expect an easy pass for Ahali, of course, in that group because they've gotten their experience.
They lost their first fixture.
They lost their first fixture, but knowing the kind of team they are and the much of experience they've gotten, they were able to bounce back strongly. Take a look at, they've been able to play 5 games. They've won 4 out of those 5. They've only lost 1. The one you mentioned, talking about the first feature, they are topping now. They're topping the 9 conference with a total of 9 points, for themselves. So for me, I actually expected for them to get an easy pass in that particular group, based on their pedigree and also the level of experience they've gotten so far in the Basketball African League. For me, I think Al Ahly, they have no problem, they have no issue at this point in time. It's just for me to see them, of course, in the playoff. Can they be able to pull through, going forward in the playoff? That's actually where, of course, you definitely separate the boys, from the men, as it's time. But for Al Ahly,
no doubt, African powerhouse in basketball, showing why they are continental champions. They may not have been so fantastic at the basketball league, but before the introduction of the basketball league, they were the team by miles in African basketball. Like we say, we have to determine with the last fixture which team will come first in that group. And right now it's Ahali and followed by Bangui. Now the 2 of them will have to meet in the last fixture. And interestingly, if Ahali loses, the worst they can get is play second in the group. But for the team from Bangui, Sporting Club of Bangui, they just have to ensure that they don't miss out on the qualification spot, because they still could drop out of qualification depending on their result in the other fixture between Ahali of Benghazi of Libya, and of course the match between them and the City Oilers of Uganda.
It should be a must-win for them. It's a must-win for
Sporting Bangui, right?
Yeah, but a must-win for them. If they don't get a win against Ahali, it's going to be very difficult for them
they
to
could
go
get third, even third, or even fourth. They could even come fourth in the group.
They could also come fourth. And I think it's all going to boil down to what happened in the game between Ahali Benghazi and City Oilers. That's, of course, the game that will decide who will go through, in that particular group, as it is. So for me, I think it's going to be a very cagey one. Looking at the way Bangu they've been able to carry themselves so far in the competition, it's going to be a cagey one against Ahali. But we'll just see what they'll be able to do. Since they'll be able to, of course, pull through so far, I think they have what it takes, to be able to challenge Ahali in this world. Ahali, of course, they have nothing to lose in this at this point. Even though they don't get it right against Bangu, they still have a chance, of course, to make it, to the next round. Yeah, to the playoff for the competition. So I don't think they will be. They will also fight
of the competition. But let's look at the team from Uganda, City Oilers of you make of them. They right now they're looking like a team, that still have a chance as well to qualify at this Nile conference. Kingsley, do you see them beating Ahali Benghazi of Libya, by a reasonable number of points for them to have a chance of maybe going to the playoff through the third best placed teams at the respective conferences?
First, in beating Ahali Benghazi will be a tough one because the City Oilers, they've not been that fantastic. They've only won 1 game out of the 5 games they've played so far, and they've lost 4. And that's a very poor one, for a team who has been in the Basketball African League. This is the 2nd time, as it is. So getting past Ahali Benghazi will be a tall mountain for them to climb, as it stands. And talking about qualification, even from the 3rd team, of course, the best 3rd team, in the group, I think it will also be a very tough one for them. When you take a look at the way Ahali Benghazi they played, you take a look at the way the team, talking about Bangui, they've played as well. You definitely want to give it up to Ahali of Egypt, to give it up to Bangui and Ahali Benghazi of getting through in that group. So the others, they've not been that fantastic. The way they've played so far, for what I've seen so far, they've been playing as if this is the first time they're coming into the competition. So for me, for them to get past Ahali Benghazi in this encounter will be a very tough one. They've not proven themselves at all. Out of 5 games, they've been able to win 1. They've lost 4. A very poor record for them. Seated bottom of that group with a total of just 6 points. They still have a chance, but I don't think they have that strength in going past Ahali Benghazi.
Well, difficult one, I must tell you there, but we've seen the Sporting Club from Bangui beat the City Oilers of Uganda this weekend to 91 to 76 points, while we saw Ahali of Egypt defeat Ahali of Libya by 87 to 76 points. Interesting fixtures. One more game to conclude hostilities in the 9th conference ongoing in Cairo, Egypt. Trust us here on Atlantic Television Network. We'll keep you posted on all of the results and, of course, the teams. So far, 2 players have emerged as just a NBA draft
time, as well as the City Oilers players as well, a player. And for me, I think they've done well, despite the fact that City Oilers are struggling, to get to the playoff. But he has been able to distinguish, of course, himself in that particular one. I think for me, good one for them. We look forward to see them maybe getting into the NBA draft.
Let's now get across to the big one, the NBA, which is into the playoff as well, both in the Western and Eastern Conference. What's happening, especially in the Western Conference, Kingsley, because we've seen action, going up and down out there. In one of the games played this weekend, we saw Dallas Maverick in Game 3, and it was really, really tough. What do you make of that encounter, Dallas Mavericks?
Yeah, a very tough encounter you see down there. Dallas Mavericks, of course, getting past the LA Clippers 101 to 90. In that particular game was, a much needed victory, you see, for Dallas Mavericks, of course, as they really wanted to make that one, of course, go in their favor, as they lead now by 2-1 after Game 3. In that particular one, I think they came all out, of course, for this one. We saw their man Luka Doncic, of course, came up. He didn't actually pose much. He came up with just 9 points. He came up with about 22 points, yes, in that particular encounter. And Kai Havin, of course, was the man who also came up with more point for them. 21 points he got in that particular encounter, and they were able to go through against the LA Clippers in that game. 101 to 90 in that encounter. As it stands now, after Game 3, Dallas Mavericks are leading 2-1 against the LA Clippers. Can the Clippers bounce back? I think they still have a chance more to play for. They have about 4 games, to play before that particular series, of course, will come to an end. I think for me, the Clippers still has what to offer at this point in time, because their man, Kawhi Leonard, of course, was also very fantastic in the last game. You can't take away the brilliance of James Harden, who actually got 21 points as well. Norman Powell, he also got 21 points. So for me, I think the Clippers have what it takes, to bounce back into this one. It's 2-1 in favor of Dallas Mavericks, but taking a look at the fact that they have about 4 games to play, that's to tell you that, it's still very open. The Clippers can still bounce back.
Open, and the Clippers can really, really bounce back. The Clippers, no doubt, one of the top side you can think of at that Western Conference. We saw action involving Minnesota Timberwolves and Phoenix Suns. Incidentally, Phoenix Suns lost that fixture, 125 for Minnesota Timberwolves and just 109 to Phoenix Suns. What's happening to the Suns?
Well, it's very, very poor outing for the Phoenix Suns so far since the series score started. Game 3, and after Game 3, it's the Minnesota Timberwolves leading by 3-0. That's a very poor outing so far.
One more game and they're out of it. Phoenix Suns are out.
It's a very poor one. Take a look at Phoenix Suns we saw last time. They were able to go far, in the playoff. But this time, the way the Minnesota Timberwolves side, of course, are dismantling them, I think it is not what everyone expected at this point in time. They have some very impressive, players. The likes have the likes of Devin Booker and also Bradley Beal, and you can't take away Kevin Durant as well in that Phoenix Suns side. But they've been unable to, of course, come to the party to showcase, what they have, posing some impressive points. Kevin Durant, got to 25 points in that game. We talk about Bradley Beal with 28 points, Devin Booker with 23 points. But still yet, they are still unable, to, or outclass this Minnesota Timberwolves side. So for me, I think it's not a very good performance for them. Just like you mentioned, if the Minnesota Timberwolves gets the win, get a very favorable result in the next encounter, the Phoenix Suns, of course, are out, in this particular one. For me, I think it's a sad one. But for the Timberwolves side, I think they've done well.
Against Cleveland Cavaliers this weekend as well. This is another tough duel, if you ask me, in Eastern Conference.
Yeah, a very impressive, one, and we'll see how it goes, of course.
Both in Celtic.
Yes, I think that's, of course, they can, from what we've seen.
2-1 actually.
2-1, and for me, I think Miami Heat, they can bounce back from what we've seen so far. They've been able to put up their own. Bam Adebayo, of course, has been trying his best, to see how he can gather the points, for the Heat. For me, I think is a KG one. I see the Miami Heat, of course, bouncing back. They were able to win the last one, the last game they played. So if they win this one, 2-2, and of course, it's still the game is still very much open. Any team, of course, can take it. But I think the Miami Heat has what it takes, of course, to bounce back in the next encounter.
Can LA Lakers bounce back? Denver Nuggets leads at 3-0 as we speak, and one more game, and big names in basketball you can ever think of will be out of the playoff for 2023-2024 season.
It's going to be a difficult one for the LA Lakers to bounce back, Mr. Siri. You take a look at what the Denver Nuggets are playing. They're not letting any stone unturned at this point. Even though the LA Lakers bounce back in the 4th game, I don't think they have what it takes to win. It's going to be very, very difficult against the Denver Nuggets side that's high-flying at this point in time. LeBron James has been very fantastic, but his best has not been good enough. You talk about the brilliance of Anthony Davis as well. You talk about Angelo Russo as well. He's also been very instrumental for the LA Lakers of offensive play, and that's why they've not been able, of course, to gather the necessary point. But they encountered Jamal Murray as well, not letting things, not letting any stone unturned. Aaron Gordon as well. These are fantastic players. Not that they are very big, but they have that synergy on the court and are able to be very much offensive. And that's why you see the Denver Nuggets, outclassing the LA Lakers. I think for me, if the LA Lakers do not get it right and they're being hosted out in a stretch, it's going to be an embarrassing one for them.
Embarrassing one, I must tell you, and how embarrassing could it be for Philadelphia 76ers if New York Knicks takes their 4th game? Because right now, as it stands, it's 2-1 in favor of the New Yorkers.
Yeah, 2-1 in favor of New York Knicks, and I think Philadelphia 76ers, they can possibly bounce back.
Big name, Joe Embiid?
Yeah, big name Joe Embiid. Toby Harris as well is also there in that side. Tracy Mazi is also there. And talking about Joe Embiid, he put up a total of 50 points.
Right.
Yeah, in their last game, and that's a huge statement of intent that he can possibly, of course, be the man to change the narrative in the next encounter. So for me, I think Philadelphia 76ers have what it takes, to bounce back in that particular feature.
Well, that will be it from basketball for this weekend. Definitely, it is hot. Actions will get concluded at the Nile Conference in Basketball League in Africa. Then we will find action as well this weekend being decided for most of the teams at the playoff both the Eastern and Western Conference of the NBA in the United States of America. We'll keep our eyes posted within the course of the week. We will, of course, let you know which of the teams have crashed out at the playoff at the Basketball League in Africa, and of course, which one continues for action, may remain for action in Rwanda, where we'll have Dakar, Senegal. Then across in the United States of America, we'll know the teams too who will have crashed out at the Eastern and the Western Conference of the NBA. For us here, we'll take a break right now, and when we return from the break, we'll go into ever-busy world of football, where finalists have emerged as the 2023-2024 CAF Champions League. While we look at what is happening across Europe, which of the teams have already won their league, and which team most likely will get European appearances. And I must tell you here before we go on this break that Leicester City are back to the Premier League in England. When we return from a break, we'll let you know the details of these and many more.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATN.
Every day our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics.
Nobody's ambition is what's the blood.
I have fought very firmly.
Natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
back. It's Weekend Sports Extraordinary, and this weekend we've talked about basketball and a lot, both at the basketball league here in Africa and the NBA, that at very crucial stages, playoff to be specific in the NBA. Then we're looking at qualifying for playoff as well at the basketball league. This is yet another busy weekend of football in Africa. But just before we look at how busy this weekend has been in Africa, in African football, Kingsley, in tennis, the Madrid Open have seen the return of Carlos Alcaraz, the homeboy, and of course, world number one, Iga Swiatek, in female tennis.
Yeah, it's been an impressive one so far from what we've seen in the games, being played. Iga Swiatek, bouncing back strongly this time around to get to the last 16, beating Romanian player down there and getting to the last 16. I think for me, it's a very huge one, for Iga Swiatek. She actually hosted out, Sarah sister 6-1, 6-1, straight win, of course, for Iga Swiatek. It ended in 1 hour 16 minutes. She was able to host out, the Romanian player. For me, good one, a good way for Iga Swiatek to see how she can, put back, her strengths this time around, and we look forward to see, how far she'll be able to go in this particular one.
Well, there was return of one big name at that Madrid Open. Talking about the big man, do I say the senior Carlos Alcaraz, so to say, Rafael Nadal.
Yeah, from what we've seen so far, injury of the other years, not been that fantastic, since this season got started. But we hope that, in the spirit of trying to defend the Madrid Open he won last time, he'll be able to rejuvenate, and get back his form going forward.
Well, let's go to football now, and it's been very busy weekend this weekend in African football because two teams have qualified for the final of this year's CAF Champions League. This weekend we saw action in Pretoria, South Africa, where Mamelodi Sundowns took on their counterparts from Tunisia, Esperance of Tunisia. In the first leg, it was actually 1 goal in favor of the Tunisian side. Then return leg fixture in South Africa, Pretoria to be specific, everyone thought the Mamelodi Sundowns that have never lost in 30 games in South Africa was going to pull up at least a draw to ensure the game went into penalty, or so to say. But it didn't happen. It was the Tunisians, the bold and gold, that went to Pretoria, South Africa, and beat the South African side, Sundowns, by 1 goal. So aggregate scoreline 2-0. Kingsley, did you expect the Tunisians to be better both at home and away to qualify for the final of this year's Champions League?
I expected to be better at home, but not away, down there against South Africa. I thought the Mamelodi Sundowns would have capitalized on home advantage, and looking at the fact that they're home, talking about Sundowns look like a fortress. You hardly come down there, and take a point, away. But we saw them, they slack down there. We saw Experience of Tunisia coming up to Sundowns, of course, to take up all 3 points, 1 goal to 0. It ended in favor of his Experience. For me, it's a sad one for Mamelodi Sundowns, looking at how far, of course, they've been able to go, in this competition. Getting to the semi-final, of course, you would say not an easy feat. They've been able, of course, to push themselves down there. I thought they would have probably capitalized on this one since they are playing at home. I think with the synergy of the players and how good they are, as a team, they would have probably go through. But the Experience side, I think they were able to use the experience, to calm down on them and getting up that victory, getting down to the finals this time around. I think is a good one for them. And kudos to the South African side. They've been able to, with courtesy of getting to the semi-final and taking a look at what they've been able to do in the past.
Goals in this crucial return leg fixture in the semi-finals?
Not as much as 3 goals, but at least I expected Ali to go through, looking at the fact that they were playing at home. And when it has to do with the pedigree, level of experience, Ali, of course, they have it, more than TP Mazembe. Don't forget, they're 11-time winners, for this particular competition. Just like you mentioned, they are seeking an unprecedented 4th title in the space of 5 years. And to Alan, he has been very, very fantastic and instrumental, to their success to the CAF Champions League final. So for me, I think his brilliance and the rest of the players, actually give them that victory on that particular encounters so far, because you see, year in, year out, they're always in the semi-final or probably in the final or even lifting the competition. So for me, I think a lot, to learn for the other region, talking about the West African, the East African, and other parts of Africans as well. What are the North Africans really doing when it has to do with African football. They are always up there at every point in time. But kudos to them for being able to get to the finals. And I think for me, it shows that the North Africans they have a whole lot. And to tell you, it was a very, very surprising one we saw from Dream FC, the team from Ghana. First time in the CAF Confederation Cup, and of course, this is what they're doing. I tell you, having been able to hold, Zamalek down there in Egypt, I think they have what it takes, to be able to challenge them down there and giving them that huge support to be able to get back Zamalek. I think this time around, Dream FC, they're not looking at pedigree, they're not looking at how good you've been in the competition. What they're looking at now, what they're banking on is their present form. And I think that's what, of course, has been keeping them going in the competition. They have all what it takes to be able to defeat Zamalek down there in Kumasi, looking at the fact that they're playing at home. And I think that confidence, will be in the players to be able to go all out, to get the needed result down there in Kumasi.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed on it and see what will happen in Kumasi next weekend, because it promises to be very thrilling. For us here on Atlantic Television Network, Weekend Sports Extraordinary, we'll focus on that encounter between Dream FC and Zamalek. Zamalek debutants could be going into the final. Away from Africa now, let's go across to Europe and quickly, Kingsley. Liverpool this weekend seem to have surrendered their ambition of winning the Premier League title in England. They've lost two games. They lost one game, and of course drew.
Challenging, for a title. They were actually going for a treble, and all of a sudden they dropped. Of course, they were eliminated by, I think, Atalanta in the Europa League, and they couldn't get far as well in the other competition. And now in the Premier League as well, they've actually dropped. No one saw this coming, looking at the way, of course, they were playing. At the
they played a 2-2 draw this weekend with West Ham.
Yeah, a very, very, very shocking one. Looking at the fact that
after losing to Everton.
Yeah,
the Merseyside derby.
Losing to Everton 2-0. And for me, I think they should just kiss the title goodbye, because I don't see how they can catch up with the likes of Manchester City and Arsenal at the moment. Looking at the fact that both teams, are really, really, gunning for the title at this point in time.
Well, we have to wrap up the show, and our sports extraordinaire will definitely come your way. And this time around, is coming from England and Leicester City. Definitely our sports extraordinaire for this weekend. Remember, they were relegated from the Premier League last year after spending 9 years in the Premiership. This time around, they have bounced back almost immediately, because they now, bearing what happens in the last game in the Championship, Leicester City will return back as one of the teams with automatic spots for the Premier League next season. Kingsley.
Leicester City, they've been able to work, in the absence of the coach, Brendan Rodgers. They were able to get a new coach, and of course he has helped them to qualify, back to the Premier League. This is one team that has, a very good record in the Premier League. They came down to the Premier League in 2021 under Claudio Ranieri, were able to win the Premier League, and as well lift the FA Cup, on that.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates from the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains. Through the Sahara, we bring on sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.